I want to welcome everyone who's here with us live today. As the presentation is going, if you have any questions that you would like to have asked, but maybe don't necessarily want to be the one asking them yourself, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'll be happy to read those for you. My name is Daryl Kanicki. I'm the Associate Commissioner of the Little East Conference. And it's my pleasure at this time to introduce Elijah Johnson, who is a 2018 Plymouth State graduate. A few years into his professional career here, and he's here to help demonstrate how he's used his experience as a student athlete, in the job search process when it comes to crafting your resume and cover letter, things to think about, when you're going through an actual interview. He is currently in his second year as a Samsung partner champion with Insight Enterprises, which is a Fortune 500 technology company. In this role, he's responsible for managing, key communications between Insight and Samsung's IT division, and he has previous work experience as a professional, both with DHL and ZipRecruiter, which I believe he plans to talk about a little bit today. He's a native of Hartford, Connecticut, and played 31 games in his 3 letter-winning seasons at Plymouth State, helping the Panthers go 9-2 his senior year, and winning a conference championship and going to the NCAA tournament. So he was at Plymouth for for some not so great times, but as they built their way up to, really something special by the time he was all said and done, which is a tremendous experience for a student athlete to be a foundational building block, when you arrive as a freshman and then, cap it off in style. With that, I will turn it over to Elijah for his presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, Daryl, for the intro. I greatly appreciate it. Hello, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Elijah Johnson. So today I'll be talking a little bit about career transitions, whether it be from college to work, or from job to job. So let's dive into it. So a little bit about me. As Daryl mentioned, I'm from Hartford, Connecticut, and I'm not sure if you guys heard. So I'm currently located out in Scottsdale, Arizona. So with that being said, I've gone from Connecticut to New Hampshire to Arizona. So I have no idea what normal weather is at all. I've been from -10 to 110. So that's a little bit about me. I graduated in 2018, as you mentioned, with a bachelor's in business management, and then a certificate in professional sales. So as you mentioned, so I played college football for 4 years. I started for 3. And actually prior to playing college football, I played high school football. And before that, I actually only played organized football 1 time. So it was a very interesting experience for me. I'm very grateful for the opportunity at Plymouth State. As you mentioned, we went from 1-9 to 9-2. I'm very grateful for the experiences, my coaches, my teammates. I learned a lot through that experience and a lot of stuff that I can refer to today. Since retiring from football, so I've gotten myself into dirt biking, and Lauren's gonna laugh at this. I know she might be on mute and I can hear her laugh through this, but I've actually gotten into hiking as well too. It took her 4 years to even try to get me to consider a hike. But of course, after I graduated, I started hiking when I moved out to Arizona. The picture below on the dirt bike, that's me on the 4 Peaks trails out here. And then the picture up on the top, I don't know if it's top right or top left for you, whatever it is, without the guy with the lemon head on the right. So that's a picture of a hike that I did up in Sedona. So that's a little bit about me there. My journey thus far. So DHL offered me the opportunity to go to Arizona. I interviewed for them through our professional sales program. I believe that this was the best option, mostly because it provided me a new opportunity in a place that I've only been once before. So they actually flew me out there for my interview, and that was my first time going out there. My second time going out there was actually when I moved out there, a week before starting work there. So it was a great opportunity for an international company. Fun fact, they're actually the 5th largest employer in the world. And through this experience, I learned a lot of valuable lessons. This led me to my experience with ZipRecruiter. This is an opportunity that I found through a few friends that I met out here. This is a great up and coming company with a ton of talented sales reps, and they're one of the best in class at what they do in an industry that is very complex, but it's great to know about. Hiring, recruiting, and understanding that field is a great tool to have, and it's something that I'll refer to throughout the presentation today. But ultimately, this led me to my current role as a partner champion at Insight for, excuse me, a Samsung partner champion for Insight. If I could speak today, that would be great. So pretty much what this is just managing key communications between Samsung and Insight. Rather this be about sales, about pricing, new products, and inventory. My role is just to make sure that all the communication is there and that everybody has what they need. I also do presentations for sales reps, for managers, and even directors as well too. So that's a little bit about my journey. And as I mentioned, I'll come back to a few points later as well too. So session outcomes. So my goal for today is for you to see, so here are my goals for today. Even if you don't completely understand this, my goal is to get you in the right direction. So the first goal here is to see yourself as work ready. We'll talk a little bit more about that, what that means, how to look for jobs, some pointers on resumes, cover letters, and LinkedIn as well too. Preparing, research, and networking and what that entails. And then we'll wrap everything up with some interview preparation tips. So now on to seeing yourself as workforce ready. So one of the first steps that you have to do is recognize that you don't know what you don't know. And even when that's so, you got to work through it. Pretty much what this is just understanding your current situation. And this is just the beginning of your game plan. For me personally, it was learning how to work in a corporate setting and how to handle those certain factors within the workplace. I actually never did an internship before I got the job for DHL. Every summer, what I was doing was just doing summer work that contributed directly to me paying for school. So I never really had that opportunity to do an internship or anything like that. But for me, I had to recognize that I just didn't know this and it was okay. So I took the time, I had to learn to develop a corporate skin per se, and just learn the stuff as I went. Next is really assessing your skills and interests. Really get to know what you're interested in. And even if it changes, that's okay. But you at least need to get started and have a decent idea of that as first. Create a list of what you know and what you're good at. Create a list of what you don't know and what you want to learn more about. Once you know that, you can do some additional research and learn about those areas that you want to or need to grow in. Know your concrete skills. What are the tools that are in your toolbox? For me, I knew that I had some professional selling skills. I knew I had consistency and problem solving skills through my athletic experience and the situations that I had to go through while being an athlete. So that's the stuff that I knew I had and I had to focus on how I can contribute it and really explain it and stuff similar to that. Document and create a list of what you've learned from your major courses. This is something that's great to have that I still refer to this day. For example, my financial management course taught me a lot about stocks and investments. And I actually, I wasn't investing in GameStop here, but while everything was going on, I actually referred back to those notes and it actually helped me create a game plan when it came to investing. So use those notes. I actually don't use them, but keep them. I actually still have notes from freshman years that I still use to this day. Asking yourself, can you write well? Like I said, kind of going back to assessing your skills. What software applications do you know well? Getting to know what your soft skills are, what your personality traits are, how well you can communicate. Personally, being open to feedback. For me, this was all about being coachable. If you aren't coachable, then you're not going to be able to play. That's one thing that I learned for sure. So just being coachable and being open to feedback, and keeping the mindset of trying to be better every day. That's something that I still do, and that's something that helps me with work every single day. Don't be generic. Everybody talks about themselves as a hard worker, but you need to really recognize what differentiates yourself from others and what makes you you. So in doing this, it's also great to refer to others so you have a complete picture as well. So these are some things that you need to consider when you're making this transition from one field to the next. Looking for jobs. So now we're going to get into this a little bit. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my ZipRecruiter experience and how and what I learned there. Hopefully I can kind of show you a couple of tips here just to kind of really expand your job search, stuff similar to that. I know that things are a lot different because we're in a different landscape due to the COVID nature of everything. And this is going to force you to get creative with your job search and everything like that. There are tools and platforms that you can use to help you find opportunities. You can find these opportunities with job searches via ZipRecruiter, Indeed, LinkedIn, Glassdoor. I'll throw a Monster reference in there for everybody that's 30 and above. But these 4 sites here, they really allowed you to build so they actually allow you to build a profile and also attach your resume for hiring managers to review. These sites also allow you to apply for any job that's posted on their site, and they even have one-click apply options as well too. So these are great resources because there's actually businesses that are paying them not only to post their jobs, but to help them find qualified resumes. Most of you here are or will be a 4-year degree holding college athlete in whatever profession you decide to pursue. And even if you don't have the experience, that's still a very, very good start. So, and even while I was working at ZipRecruiter and speaking with hiring managers on a day-to-day basis, a lot of companies are willing to take a chance on you if you have the core skills and you're a willing learner or being coachable, as I mentioned earlier. And like I said, you can speak on being a coach. You can speak on being coachable because if you weren't, you wouldn't be playing and you probably wouldn't be on the team. So it's all about adjusting and kind of keeping those core skills still. So you can use one of these. So you can either use one of these platforms here or just start with the Google search. And not to mention, you can also look on company websites as well, go to the careers page. And if you don't think that the opportunity is there, I actually did a quick ZipRecruiter search for account management positions within a 25-mile radius of Boston, Massachusetts. And it actually showed me 98,000 account management openings and postings on that site. So the opportunities are there. All you got to do is look and get creative. So now I want to kind of go into developing your LinkedIn. So this is what this is just helping you develop a positive online presence. I got to give a shout out to my sales professor, Bob Nadeau, because I'm telling you, that guy stressed us and stressed the importance and made sure that we had a solid LinkedIn leaving college. I mean, hey, and even if you want, that guy could probably teach a LinkedIn university class. So he's a great reference to have and someone that really taught me a lot. So LinkedIn is almost like another virtual resume for you. And then also it's another way for you to highlight the skills that you have and experiences that you've had as well too. With here, you can make meaningful connections, whether it be your teammates, your classmates, coaches, teachers you have good relations with. You'll never know who can end up where and can be an important connection to a door that you're trying to get through. So LinkedIn can also help you kind of prepare for interviews. I'll dive into this a little bit more, but rather it be the company that rather it be a company page or the person who was interviewing you, you can get a minor understanding of their background, how they got there, and how they got to, and a little bit about how they got to the role within that job as well too. So overall, I mean, I believe that LinkedIn is a very important and useful tool to have. So resumes and cover letters. Now we're getting into the fun stuff. So this is like the key. This is like the key to entry into any opportunity that you may come across. When it comes to the resume, personally, the way that I start, I start by looking at a few different samples online. I usually like to tailor. I mean, you can tailor your resume to whatever style that you like. There are different formats depending on what you're trying to do and what you're trying to showcase and accomplish. But you don't need anything too extravagant. All it really needs to be is readable. The reason being is that there's a hiring manager that are probably going through 200 similar resumes that might look exactly like yours. So the point of the resume, once again, is just to highlight what makes you unique, and as well as to showcase the skills that you've developed through the experiences that you've had, and also show why you're worth the investment. So now when it comes to listing these experiences, I would say don't count out any job. All jobs can demonstrate both hard work, your hard work ethic and specific skills. I mean, for example, I was a teacher's assistant for a summer school, for a correct summer school for a couple of summers. And I would have never thought that those experiences that I had there would have connected to the current role that I have in the tech industry that I'm in right now. So almost any specific background, any specific job or experience that you had can connect with whatever that you're trying to pursue. And this also goes for community service stuff as well, community service offerings as well too. So not offerings, but experiences that you've had as well too. Another piece of advice that I would say for this here is get advice, run it by an advisor, a good friend, preferably a good friend with a higher GPA. It's great for them to, I mean, it would be great for them to proofread and give feedback on there. It's always great to have a couple different eyes on your resume just to make sure you're not missing anything, make sure you're not having any misspellings or anything like that, because just like that, if you have one small error, your resume could be thrown out. So always good to have a couple different eyes on there. Now, when it comes to listing your athletic experience, I have my stuff listed under the accomplishment section of my resume, but it speaks wonders. No matter if you were a star, a starter, role player, practice player, you can still list that collegiate experience. This demonstrates your commitment, your ability to balance the schedule, and having key communication skills, especially within a team. To be honest, my athletic experience is one of the main reasons why I have the position that I have right now. One of the hiring managers that I interviewed with actually went through and saw my resume. He was a college athlete as well too, and almost word for word, he said, "Well, man, like if you can balance 4 years of college football, have decent grades, and and graduate with a solid degree, I know you can manage this job." So, and that's what I did. I kind of gone through. I believe I'm doing pretty well at my role now, and I know that you can too. So that's a little bit about resumes and kind of how I tied in my athletic experience with that as well too. Cover letters. Cover letters are very important, especially if you're in a role where there's a lot of written communication. You're in a role where you're writing a lot of proposals and stuff similar to that nature. If that's the case, you want to make sure that you spend as much time on your cover letter as you would on your resume. Really make sure that your cover letter is clean, cut, and to the point. Because within this cover letter, you're going to state why you're interested in the role and what attributes that you have that will help you succeed within this role. And like I said earlier, make sure you proofread, proofread, proofread. Make sure you keep that friend with a good GPA around too. So prepare, research, and network. So this is kind of building upon some of the information that I had and that I spoke to a little bit earlier. Take time to familiarize yourself with the company websites. Really get the chance to learn the industry, learn who has the market share within that industry and the competitors. Like I said earlier, Google is always a great starting place. And me personally, I actually like looking on Glassdoor a ton. Glassdoor gives you some company reviews and rates, gives you some more information about the role, and then it also gives you some the pay range information as well. This is very important, especially when it comes to negotiating the salary of whatever position you decide to go for. So really look at Glassdoor and use your network as well too. Interview preps and pointers. So we're in the home stretch of the presentation right here. My first real point of advice is speak to your resume with confidence. Listen, you've already experienced what you wrote down on your resume. You wrote it down, you've gone through it. All you have to do is speak to it now. So that's something that I know that you can do and everybody can do. It just takes a little bit of practice. Prepare by studying, using the resources that I just mentioned here. Make sure, like I said, competitors, make sure you know the company's business, their missions, their goals. And also, this is very key. Know how your role aligns and contributes to the company's success and what they're trying to succeed. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, make sure you're looking up that person on LinkedIn, getting a good idea of kind of what they are, their background. You might find some things that you may have in common, and you also kind of get an understanding of where they are, how they got to where they are as well too. I would also say review some sample interview questions. I can't even count how many times I received a question in an interview that starts with "Tell me a time when." Just to combat that, one thing that I always do when going into interviews, I always have a few stories or a few experiences in the back of my head that I can always refer to. A lot of these stories and experiences, I would say 7 out of the 10 times they connect to athletics. Because we've gone through a lot of things, especially as D3 athletes. You know, we have a lot of stories, we have a lot of perspectives, we have a lot of things to show our perseverance and our hard work. So with me, even if they don't understand, my goal is to try to paint the picture for them. I've also received multiple questions like, "Hey, we start at 8 a.m. Do you think that that'll be hard for you to accomplish?" And I always tell them that you're actually letting me sleep in because Coach Castonia had us waking up at 5:30 for a 6 a.m. lift. So, so like I said, your athletic experience will always kind of connect, and you can always you always can use that in any interview that you have. My next point here would be make sure you have some questions prepared as well too for the end of the interview. Some questions that I like to have usually are questions like, what are some common first year challenges and how do people overcome these? What separates a good versus a great employee? That's a phenomenal question to ask because anybody could be good, but what are those next steps and what does success look like to them? So that gives you a good understanding, and also you can kind of model yourself after that once you get into that role. So that's always great information to have. And finally, you always want to follow up with a thank you note or email. Just make sure you get that over to them. Make sure you let them know that you appreciate their time. So that's pretty much it in regards to the professional side of the presentation. I wanted to touch a little bit about the transition from athletics from one field to another, from athletics to the professional field, because that's something that we've all gone through, that we all will experience. One of the main things is it's not easy, but it's definitely rewarding. Even though you're not playing that sport every day, you can still set goals and accomplish them for yourself. And your body's going to thank you. Your body's going to thank you for not beating up on it every day. Mine still does, even though I put on that retirement 10. My body thanks me for not beating up on it every day like I used to. So, and this also gives you the chance to experience some things outside of sports. Like I said, I finally got the chance to be able to get into dirt biking like I wanted to, and I finally trusted myself enough to go hiking. So, like I said, it's not easy, but it's very rewarding. Through your time through college athletics, you've gained a lot of transferable traits, as I mentioned, like I said, kind of a couple times throughout the presentation. Your commitment, your perseverance, and the ability to remain agile no matter what the landscape is. Another pointer that I would say, it's key to pick up a couple hobbies. I mean, I keep talking about dirt biking and hiking, but that's something that really saved me. That's something that really helped me out make that transition, because I mean, you spend a lot of time and dedication on the sport that you play. So it's always good to do something like that. I love giving feedback to younger athletes. I love kind of helping out the kids in my family that always want to know more about football or anything like that. It feels great because you're also not only it's great for that kid himself, but that kid might share that information onto somebody else as well too. So it's not only passing down some solid information that you've had and you experienced, but you're impacting positively the next generation as well too. So just a quick summary. I just want to give you some key takeaways here. The first thing is you're far more prepared and qualified than you think. Second key is to keep it simple. Rather it be your cover letter, your resume, you're going through an interview, keep it simple. You got it. The next key is to connect your experiences. You have a lot to refer to, and you can build upon that as well too. For example, I still use stuff from class. I still use stuff from football. I still use stuff from DHL and ZipRecruiter that I learned. Always continue to connect your experiences and build upon those as such. Stay calm, cool, and collective. Listen, the interview is a conversation and not a quiz. It's okay. The person interviewing you knows that you're nervous 9 times out of 10. So it's okay. Look at it as a conversation, not a quiz. And prepare. A wise man named Coach Castoni once told me that proper preparation prevents poor performance. And that's something that I still use today. I always try to prepare no matter what it is. And even if it's not what I expect it to be, I still have a solid foundation and a solid ground. So that's it for my presentation today. I'd like to thank the Little Eastern Conference for giving me the opportunity to do this. And now I'm going to open up the floor for any questions that you may have. I think you're on mute, Daryl. The phrase of 2020.
I'll always do that. I haven't seen anything in the chat so far, but since we have a little bit of a smaller group today, I think it's okay if someone wants to unmute themselves and just go ahead and ask a question. That's perfectly fine. Elijah, one question that I had, for the group is, you, and you're actually a great example of this. You moved across the country to accept that first job. Any advice, suggestions for people who may have to look outside of a particular area? I know when I was first looking for jobs, initially I had this idea of, well, I want to stay generally in the Springfield, Mass area where I grew up. That's where my family was. That's where my friends were. That's where I went to college. Ultimately, it didn't work out, out that way. So can you just kind of speak to that, and how you can kind of research other areas that you may be able to find that are similar to home, and then ultimately being making the move out to a different part of the country?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, I mean, like I said, I went out to Arizona. Coming out to Arizona, that was my first time during that interview, and my second time was moving. So so a lot of the reason why I was able to do that was because I did a ton of research, man. I did a lot of research on the apartments in the area. I did a ton of research on what's going on in the area. I did a lot of research on the jobs that were offered in the area, and even with ZipRecruiter, LinkedIn, and everything like that, you can change the locations as well too. So if you want to have a good idea and understanding of where or what's going on and what's available in that area, you have a lot of different tools. When it comes to moving across the country, one thing I'll say is pack light. That's one thing I did. I actually moved out to Arizona with 2 bags of clothes, and I brought everything out, and I like purchased the stuff that I have out here. It's not easy, but you learn a lot about yourself when you move outside of your comfort zone. So that's a few different things that, I mean, a few different pointers. I could probably do a whole presentation on moving outside of moving away and everything like that, and everything that you handle. But did that answer your question? Is there anything else that I can answer from that perspective?
Yeah, no, I thought that was good. And if anyone needs an example on how to pack up a box truck, because I moved from Springfield, Mass to Connecticut to 2 parts of New York to Philadelphia and back again. So I can teach you how to do the the Jenga moves to get all your stuff into a 10-foot box truck. It is possible. It's not easy, but it is possible. One question that I had was, and you spoke to this a bit during the presentation, was, some of the resources that you utilized, outside of like, everyone here is like, go to career services. They're there to help you. And they're certainly a fantastic resource. Some of those offer free versions of the programs, and then a pay-per-view service of a professional version. I know LinkedIn's a prime example of that. Do you see value in making the decision to go to that upgrade and spend the money on something like that, or do you think it's okay to just have the basic free version of a software like that?
That's actually a really good question. So with like ZipRecruiter and LinkedIn, I don't think that they have like paid versions of that. So I think that it is a free offering in regards to that. With LinkedIn, that's a good question. It depends. I would say it depends on what field that you're in. I did the demo version of their premium offering, and I only needed a month of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say at least dip your toes in the water and try and do a trial of it and kind of make that decision yourself almost. Me personally, I think I paid for a month of LinkedIn Premium, but it all depends on what stage you're at and what information that you need. So if you need like some additional information on, I mean, with LinkedIn Premium, they were giving me information like how many people apply for the role, where does my resume stack up in their point of view. So it depends on what type of information that you need, but I think that the free versions of the software is worth your time, and I mean, I would say worth your investment, but your investment is less than a penny. So I would say that's so the free versions are great, but if you're looking for that next level, it depends on what you're looking for. At least trial it and then make that decision from there. I don't like spending my money that much, if you guys can't tell. So
I think while you were answering a couple of my questions here, we had Kim Bounds raising her hand. So Kim, if you're ready, go for it.
Oh, she's gonna ask me a tough one. I don't know if I'm ready for this one.
Yes, I am.
Oh, I miss you.
I'm actually making pizza right now, which I do in my in all my free time. So anyway, I've been listening. Congratulations. So you're doing a great job. I just wanted to
Thank
talk
you.
about, because from my perspective as somebody who hires people, you know, one thing that I see sometimes with some young people and their resumes is sort of falsifying the resume. And I'm not saying point blank, you know, lying. I mean, there are people who do that, but sometimes you see a real embellishment of things. And what do you have to say about that? Like, you know, I just find that I really appreciate people who, you know, are completely, they know where
Like
they're
honest.
at.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so what are your thoughts on resume building in that way?
I knew Kim was gonna ask me a tough one. That's great. That's funny how that works. But so my opinion on it is, I personally just like to be honest, because if it's something that I'm lying, I won't say that I'm lying about it. If it's something that I'm really building up here, then I'm not going to be able to speak to it as well. And really the resume is just the key to get you into the door. The interview is what's really important. So if you're over here falsifying your resume or anything like that, then it's not really going to help you that much. If you can't speak to it, then there's not really a point of it even being there. So that's kind of my answer with that. And that's the way that I usually kind of roll with anything similar to that. So.
Yeah, I think that's really important. So thank you for just strengthening that point of view.
Oh, of course, of course.
Elijah, this is Pam from the conference office. You spoke a little bit about Glassdoor and how it gives you some information into corporations with salary ranges and that type of thing. For those that are just coming out, it's a first-time position. If they know the range, what's your thoughts on strategies for somebody that maybe doesn't have the experience at that point? You know, you want to show your value in terms of not shooting low, but you don't want to go the other way either. What thoughts might you have on that?
It's a very good question. My first thing, I guess, the way that I guess my first point of view on that would be is what's important to you. I mean, I'll look at it from a sales perspective where you can negotiate base versus commission. If you know that you don't have a lot of experience, then I would go with something that's more solidified with a solid base, because you don't really know that. I mean, you don't know the sales field yet. So negotiating salaries is something that is pretty tough. I would always try to shoot for the middle. If it's something that you're confident that you can really do well, then I would say kind of go in the upper range. But I guess the best way to look at it is the worst that they can say is no, you know? So, I mean, that's the way that I look at it. That's the way that I usually go into my salary negotiations and stuff similar to that. So I hope that answers your question, but yeah, that's a very interesting topic. And it's usually tough to kind of find that middle ground. So.
Okay, do any of the other guests in the room have a question here? You can either raise your hand. I'm trying to scroll through as best I can to see it, or again, feel free to just go ahead and unmute yourself and give yourself a quick introduction to ask a question.
I have a quick question.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Kieran Tegley. I'm from Eastern Connecticut, and I just had a question regarding like the transition from being a student athlete into the workforce, and would you have done anything differently, or like completed a master's degree or something pertaining to that?
That's an interesting question. So I find that very interesting, because right now I'm actually looking at trying to pursue a master's while I'm working. For me, I don't want to say I didn't have the choice, but I was in a position where I after graduating, I wanted to kind of just at least try to make some money and build a solid foundation. And that DHL opportunity for me to move out to Arizona was there. So that's why I didn't pursue master's in that situation there. Looking back on if I would do anything different, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm thankful for the way that everything worked out and all the highs and lows. I don't look back at things like, oh man, I messed up on X, Y, and Z. I just try to balance, maneuver, and kind of keep going and persevering in the right direction. So I guess to the first part of your question in regards to the masters, it depends on what your situation is. If you're really focused on getting that, if it's key to the field that you're in, then I say go for it. For me, what I'm trying to accomplish is I'm trying to work and then do a couple classes while I'm working. So I'm knocking out two birds with one stone. I'm getting some experience. Then I'm also building up that master's experience, and I'm also getting the master's as well too. But if that's what you're trying to do, you got to be very, very focused, and you got to be very locked in on what you do, and kind of know that you're in for it. And I won't say in for it, but you got to know that you're not going to have a ton of free time. You got to know that you're going to have to be very strategic with your time. So I would say the master's depends on what your schedule is and what you're looking to do. If I have any regrets or anything that I would change, I wouldn't really change much. I think the only thing I would change is I probably would have gone to Arizona at least one more time before moving out here, and probably not during July. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
And just
great.
to build
Thank
off that, a little bit as well. It's advanced degrees can very much be career dependent. Certain things you certainly need a master's for, or even a PhD for, depending on the field that you're looking at. Some of your academic programs are built for you to immediately have those when you're done, to prepare you to immediately go into the job field. Others don't. I would absolutely just pay attention to when you're looking for positions. Is it master's preferred or is it master's required? Because that could be a huge difference in answering that question, especially while you're still in school, trying to figure out, do you want to go to grad school right away? Or is it something I could maybe, after a year or two out of college, try to chip away at? A lot of employers, especially if you're looking at something within that related field, will offer some sort of assistance, whether it's, full reimbursement of one class a semester, or, partial reimbursement. You can certainly look into that once you've entered the field. I will say, don't wait too long to do it. Elijah and I were talking about this a little bit the other day. I have been out of school, I hate to admit this, 18 years now, and I have not taken a single master's course, even though I know that for what and initially when I got into the sports information profession, a master's wasn't necessarily a required thing. But as my career went on, there were other things that I wanted to do. And I know that a master's is going to be the next step into doing that as I try to advance in administration. So as your life just changes, that the answer to that question is going to change as well. So just don't be afraid to take a class at a time if that's what it takes. It may take a little while, but you'll be able to fall back on, you'll find immediately those, skills you had, while you were an undergrad and balancing a student athlete schedule. It's all going to come rushing back. That's all. All my friends have told me this. They keep telling me, Daryl, don't sweat it. You'll be fine once you get going. The first class will be the hardest. You'll cruise from there. So I hope that, helped as well.
Yeah, and also, and that's another thing too. That's the reason why I'm trying to get this. And then, kind of to Daryl's point, the reason why I'm trying to get this accomplished now is because I know that I'm young and I have the energy. Who knows, maybe 4 or 5 years down the line, I have a family, I have this, I have that. It's going to take a little bit. Your time isn't, you're not going to have as much time in comparison to what you have right now. So, that's personally why I'm trying to pursue it right now in comparison to trying to push it off and wait till later. So.
Yeah, Elijah, one question I've got here in the chat is regarding networking. How much did you do, while you were at Plymouth State, trying to get into the workforce for the first time, and kind of how have you, managed, networking since you've become a professional?
So with me, while I was at Plymouth, so I think I downloaded LinkedIn maybe when I was a late sophomore or second semester sophomore, and built it from there. When it comes to networking, you can hit connect and reach out to people as well too. But with me, the thing that I try to do is just build good relations with people, make sure I have a positive impact on them, make sure they have a positive perspective on me. So it's never too late to start. And at the end of the day, we all start at one place. Right now, I would say, kind of while I was in school, kind of graduating. When I graduated, a lot of my LinkedIn connections were classmates, were coaches, and they were even people that people from high school that I knew as well too. Going into my professional career, a lot of these people are the people that I worked with, and have kind of positive relationships with. And even if I'm not talking to them on an everyday basis, they still can speak to my work ethic. the main thing is with that, and I kind of learned this the hard way, is not burn. I don't say not to burn bridges or anything like that, but just through, even just bigger than LinkedIn, the more positive interactions, the more positive communication that you can have with people, the better it is for you, and the more likely that it's going to be a key to open a door that you're looking to get into in the future.
Thank you.
I don't know if Kim raised her hand again, but I see it.
I haven't. Yeah, I've noticed that her hand is still up. I don't think she's got another question.
No, sorry, I was just doing dishes. No, I didn't raise my hand again. Even if you're an athletic director and you all these things, you can still work at the pizza shop and do dishes. You do whatever you need to do. That's my advice.
Kim's making me hungry on this presentation. That's.
We did just get one question in the chat here. The question is, how important is discipline to you? And I don't know if the person who asked that's willing to, unmute himself just to maybe expand on that a little bit, because that could go in an awful lot of directions. But Elijah, if you want to take a crack at that, and maybe we have a little more conversation after.
Yeah, for sure. It's very, very, very important to me. And I learned it a lot through athletics. For me, it's not only just, for me, discipline is not just discipline, but it's prioritizing what's important to you. So for me, I know I made the joke earlier about I don't like spending money here and there, but I prioritize and I'm disciplined in how I spend it. I prefer to spend it on the place that I live, what I do, the hobbies that I have, but I spend it like I'm disciplined in how I spend it there. When it comes to work, I'm not gonna be staying up at 11:30 when I know I have to wake up at 5 the next day. So it's key, and with discipline, it all connects, it all builds up. If you have one bad day, that can lead you to another bad day, and that bad day can turn into a bad week, a couple bad weeks, now you got a bad month, and now you're gonna have to rebound off of that. So discipline is very, very important to me, and discipline, the reason why it's important, because it ties into me and ties into what I prioritize, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I hope that answered your question there.
How would you compare, I guess, some of the experience you have now, when it comes to disciplining yourself in the varieties of areas, how are you able to, take, things that you learned in prioritizing things while you were a student athlete and applying it to that? Because I think it's some of the people, maybe while they're an undergrad, they have a hard time kind of wrapping their head around you really are already doing this stuff. You just have to apply it in a different manner.
Well, I look at it as winning. I'm an athlete. I think that we're all athletes here. We want to win. So I know in order to win, I need to be very disciplined in what I do. Winning could be, you can look at it from an athletic standpoint. You can look at it from a job standpoint. Winning is very, I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to say it. But for me, it all leads up to a win. A win for me is having a great week at work. A win for me is getting a raise or getting a promotion. So for me, in order to win, I know that I need to be very disciplined in doing so. So that's the way that I kind of look at it from athletics and transitioning it over to my professional life. But for me, it's like it depends how bad do I really want to win. If I really want to win, if I really want to do well, I got to be disciplined to do it. It's just that's the same thing that I just kind of, it's simple for me, but that's the way that I looked at it while I was in athletics. And that's how I kind of brought it over to my professional life as well. So.
Awesome. Thank you. I've got Kyle Dennis looking to ask a question. Go ahead, Kyle.
So I played baseball at UMass Dartmouth, and I wanted to see if you had any tips after college and after athletics about kind of keeping your routine. I know that's big for me during sports, and and probably a lot of us felt it during the pause of COVID. Was kind of lost for a couple weeks or a month or two, not having sports, not having a routine. So I didn't know if you could maybe expand on some examples that you had to deal with.
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, baseball is top two of my favorite sports. I'm a huge baseball fan, and I'm not going to say which team I like the most because I know this is a very New England based conversation. But in regards to routine, for me, I mean, I came out here. With me, I liked I liked what I did and the structure that I had. So rather it be, I knew that I liked to have the structure of working out in the morning, going to work, relax when I got home, going to sleep early, getting back to it. So, I mean, even if you fall off of that routine, it's always, I mean, the best way to get back is to ease yourself back into it. For example, if I'm over here working out 5 days a week, I'm not going to come back and try and get, if I've taken a month or two off, I know that I'm not going to be able to go back to that same intensity. I'm going to try and ease myself into it. Started with maybe 2 or 3 days, 3 to 4, and kind of building it up from there. So I try to keep a routine, but even if I fall off that routine, I really try to work to get back to it, and working to get back to it, I try to ease myself back into it and kind of have steps to get back into it, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it does. Thank you.
Of course, of course.
And I think you spoke to it a little bit earlier as well of, some of the activities that you built in now that you don't have, football, that, going hiking, something that you and Lauren apparently never thought you would ever do, the dirt biking, things like that. Like, once you kind of figure out what you want to do, you can build that schedule, ease your way into it, and you'll find you still have the structure is still going to be there, and you know how to build it, because of your experiences these last, 4, 8, 10 years, however long you've been playing sports.
Yeah, and another thing is still is to be flexible with it. Don't do the same thing all the time. Like, try to add in new stuff. Try to do something new. I mean, with me, I want to go somewhere new. I want to try a new hike or something like that, or go to a different trail, try a different dirt bike trail. So just keep it. I mean, try to keep it consistent, but also try to do something different and mix that in as well too. So it's not getting repetitive and boring to you.
I have a question for you, Elijah. This is Lauren.
Okay.
Probably won't be as hard as Kim, but I often hear, when student athletes get towards their senior year and they're thinking about that next step, that career, and it's like, well, I need to not think about athletics and worry about where I'm going to be after graduation. And, obviously I'm deterring them from giving up their sports. What advice would you give to one of those possible seniors or so who's looking to kind of forego that last year of eligibility because they feel they need to get ready for that career?
That's a really good question. My best advice is, listen, this is your last opportunity to play sports. I mean, unless you're foregoing your senior year to go to the draft or something like that, but this is your last real opportunity to go through and do something that you truly love. You can balance, you can cross. I kind of look at it as, I'm going to cross that bridge when you get there. I mean, with me, I was over here doing interviews during my football season, so you can balance it and you can manage it. But at the same time too, you got to really recognize that this might be your last time to really play and enjoy the sport that you love in an organized fashion. So it's all about balance. If you can find that balance your senior year and going into your professional career, you can accomplish almost anything. So maybe a little bit harder going into that senior year, but it's worth it. All in all, it's worth it. I mean, obviously, I had one of my favorite seasons was my senior season, not only because we got the ring, but it was because we left a lasting impact, not only in just the juniors and the sophomores, but on the freshmen and the people that were coming into the program as well too. So that senior year, not only is your last chance to play, but it's also your last chance to leave a lasting impact and leave what you want the program. I won't say what you want the program to be, but try to share those traits and kind of leave I guess the best way to say is kind of leave everything on the field and leave a legacy almost. So I hope that answers your question. Lauren, I miss you as well too, and I thank you, and I'm sorry that I haven't been going on any hikes in New Hampshire.
When you're up here, we're going to go for a hike. That's a deal. Thank you, Elijah.
You go on 20-mile hikes, man. I don't know if I'm ready for you yet, so we'll see.
Hey, come on. You keep up with this old lady.
We'll do. I can't wait.
Proper training and the discipline we were just talking about, and you will be able to keep up with her, I guarantee.
Exactly.
She's a 15-year pro. I'm not sure yet. So.
Any other questions? I know we're pushing about an hour here at this point, so you folks may be done. But before we let Elijah go, anyone else want to, raise their hand as I'm scrolling through here, or unmute themselves to ask something? And we got that awkward pause thing here while I'm scrolling through, so just want to give it one last look.
While we're waiting, I just want to kind of give another thank you. Oh, first to the LEC, Daryl, thank you for all your help and everything that you did to help setting this up. Lauren, Kim, OC, my Plymouth State football coaches, Coach Cass, Coach Zeman, and all the great ones, the athletic administration. I want to thank you guys as well too. And I also want to give a huge shout out to Terry Doucher. I'm not sure if many of you know her, but she's one of the advisors that I had, and she's helped me step hand in hand through my whole the whole transition from athletics to the professional career and everything like that. So I want to give a huge shout out to Terry Doucher, and then my mom and my little brother as well too, because I know they're going to see this. So.
Awesome. Well, Elijah, I think we are good to call it a night here. Really want to thank you for taking the time to be with us here tonight. Truly do appreciate it. If anyone has any follow-up questions, feel free to send a direct message to me, Daryl@littleeast.com. I could certainly try to connect you with Elijah afterwards. And at some point early this week, we will make this recording available online after the fact. So if you have stuff you want to be able to show your friends, teammates afterwards, it's going to live on YouTube forever. That's a great thing about it. So again, thank you very much for joining us tonight, Elijah. Great presentation. And to everyone, thank you again for taking an hour out of your Sunday night to join us. Good luck with the rest of your seasons and academic year. And we look forward to, Pam and myself look forward to seeing some of your championships. They'll be here before we know it in a couple of weeks.